For me, the real value is in the one-on-ones, because while you're searching and you have all these questions, getting that feedback while you're going through it or screen sharing or whatever, super helpful, and just allows you to move a lot faster. You can get to your decision quicker, which is what you need to do.
Bryan, how does it feel, man? Made a big transition last week.
Feels really good. Just getting in the thick of it, trying to learn everything, drinking from the fire hose.
Makes sense. That sounds accurate. Could you share a little bit, whatever comfort level you have, about what you bought and your process a little bit?
Yeah, it's a landscaping and irrigation company down in Central Oregon, the high desert. It's a family deal, so made it a little easier to trust the sellers, but still had all of the normal things you go through with seller anxiety and all that.
Walk me through. I know you started the Masterclass program, I want to say November. Is that accurate?
Yep, that sounds right.
How'd you find your experience sort of in the last 6 months, kind of with the Masterclass and the weekly one-on-one calls versus, I think you had been looking for about a year beforehand?
Yep, I thought, the Masterclass was super helpful because it had all the information quickly digestible from, you've done it before. Aside from reading the books, there's really no candid commentary about parts of the process and stuff like that, which is super helpful. But for me, the real value is in the one-on-ones, because while you're searching and you have all these questions, getting that feedback while you're going through it or screen sharing or whatever, super helpful, and just allows you to move a lot faster, right? You can get to your decision quicker, which is what you need to do.
Speed is everything, particularly when you're dealing with like 5 or 10 important decisions in a given week. And so our weekly one-on-ones, I think, also enabled me to kind of see what was top of mind for you, evaluate what we needed to talk about, and share. Getting through the SBA process, you had a lot of fun with that. Talk about sort of how we work together to kind of help figure that process out.
It was a brutal process, using the SBA loan broker helped out a bit. They gave some introductions and stuff, but essentially you work with the loan officers at the bank, right? The salespeople, and you said in the masterclass that they just tell you what you want to hear. That's true.
Yeah, they will tell you whatever you want to hear.
Yeah, we chose our first bank who was super confident. The guy was an underwriter before he was a loan officer, and told us he could do the deal a certain way that we had already signed the LOI to do. Actually, yeah, that was the original way we signed the LOI. And they were telling us they could do it, telling us they could do it. We signed with the bank and then got into underwriting 2 weeks later. And underwriting just flat out said, no, walk away from the deal to the loan officer. And we're like, what are we doing? 2 to 3 weeks in, burned out of your 90-day exclusivity, right? Mm-hmm. And then you're back to square one. Luckily, we did have a backup bank that we had to offer from, or a term sheet from, but didn't go with. And, we had our problems there too, because we ended up going with them. We talked to a handful of different banks, got a couple of term sheets and ultimately a couple of commitment letters. But, having the backup is essential because, they're going to tell you can do it one way, and then either the SBA rules change or the bank's rules change or both, or they just didn't know the rules, which
That's
also
right.
happens. And then you got to restructure. I had to go back to the sellers, get a new LOI signed with a different structure in order to get the deal done. So, yeah, it's brutal.
No, it was crazy. And then having a debt broker in the process, but kind of having to give some additional recommendations. I know there's some calls where I was like, yeah, we got to get some backups, man. You got to get some backups. So, final question. Now that you're in the seat of the owner, you're managing the business. I know your goal was sort of around kind of, freedom for yourself, building assets over time, being closer tied to sort of where your work and the value you create going in your pocket. Just tell me about how that feels now that you're in the owner's seat.
Yeah, it feels great. I came from what 4 years at a startup and then 5 years at Amazon Web Services, and you always got a boss. You always have somebody telling you got to be in this meeting, you got to do that, you got to have this call at 10 p.m. You know, and obviously it's your job. You get paid really well. You want to do it, but it's a grind for 5 years or whatever. But yeah, being in the seat of you know taking a job, going and completing it, and being able to, build that customer, and that's your money. And you can either take the job or you cannot take the job. You can decide. You know,
That's right.
uh, yeah. I mean, it's pretty liberating, I would say.
Awesome, Bryan. Well, thanks for giving us a little bit of information on your acquisition. Thanks for your time, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime.